We do the call to order for the Chamblee Downtown Development Authority meeting for Tuesday, July 21st. Indeed. All right. Let's get going. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes from the regular meeting, June 23rd, 2020?
Motion to approve regular meeting minutes, June 23rd, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds like everyone. Do we need to do a roll call, or is everybody here? Catherine, can you see everyone?
Yes, everybody is here.
Perfect.
Yeah, we have the whole board.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm here.
Do we have, did everyone get a chance to review the executive session minutes from June 23rd, 2020?
Motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes from June 23rd, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion from Van, second from Leslie.
Brian.
All in favor? And Brian?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Excellent.
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds like everyone. Perfect. Has everyone had a chance to review the approval or the minutes for the called meeting July 21st, 2020?
Motion to approve the special called meeting minutes for July 21st, 2020.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sounds like everyone. Did everyone have a chance to review the executive session minutes from July 21st, 2020?
Motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes for July 21st, 2020.
Second?
Second.
Who the second?
All in favor?
Who was that?
Leslie.
Leslie, second.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Everybody. Moving on to the chairman's report. I don't have anything to report at this minute. Moving on to the financial report.
All right, if everybody has had a chance, or if you have not had a chance to look at the spreadsheet that Catherine attached to the email and included in the packet, I'll just hit the highlights. Our current balances in the debt service account is $79,000 and change. The operating account has $393,000 and change, and the escrow account has a little bit less than $1,000 in change. So that's really where, I mean, total of $473,000, 537 cents in all of our accounts in our current assets. Really, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I won't belabor the issue.
So, yeah, I've got a question. And this might be a question Catherine can answer. On the spreadsheet, there was a tab that showed the rent. And I'm assuming the cells that you put in yellow were the ones where we did not collect any payment for that particular month.
Yeah, that's correct. So these two are the tables and chairs. If you can see the screen.
Yeah.
They did not pay May and June. We had that agreement with them, which they didn't sign. And then they did it.
My question is about the collision center. I thought they had asked for either a reduction, but they paid anyways?
They asked for it. We got an amendment together with Dan's team, and then when I sent them the amendment, didn't hear from them, followed up, and they said, "Oh wait, never mind. We're okay. We can pay our rent."
Okay, all right. I like the sound of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was really my only question. Was when I saw that the collision wasn't in yellow, I questioned.
Yeah.
So, all
Yeah,
right.
they've been
Good job.
paying. Yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions on the financial report? Otherwise, we'll move on.
Move along.
Perfect. I'm also navigating through email, so bear with me as we're scrolling through. DDA property update. For the properties owned by the DDA, to give you guys a quick rundown, we'll have some stuff to discuss in our executive session in terms of sales and dispositions. But just starting with the Women's Center site, Rod has executed his third and final amendment to extend. We received his additional escrow payment. All signs seem to point towards the closing in the beginning of September. So that is moving along as far as we can tell. The collision site and both tables and chairs, we had each had a 30-day extension request to DD, which basically, due diligence, which pushes out our outside closing date about 30 days. Each of those have their own specific things that we're working around, and we'll get into the details of that in the executive session. And then the Chamblee Town Center update, which is our biggest and most complicated disposition. We are basically working through the, how to put this, the logistics of taking down the site between our two partners and the complications that are coming up from COVID. None of this is really surprising, but it is going to raise some challenges with how we look at this in terms of a disposition and the strategy moving forward. Just to give you guys the high level Cliff's notes, and certainly feel free to ask questions after this, but office is very difficult to finance. Retail is very difficult to finance at this point, and those are two big chunks of our town center development. Multifamily is not without its issues, but that would likely be the first domino to fall with this project. And if that's the case, we need to figure out how do we, as a partnership here, the city, the DDA, our development partners, both Worthing and Seven Oaks, how do we come up with a way to basically get that first domino to fall, which would be the multifamily, and finance the different parts and pieces of the town center, given where we are with the economy, COVID, and nobody having a clue what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. All that being said, it's our goal and it's our, however you want to phrase it, we're pushing forward with this. We just are going to have to get creative in how we do that. That being said, the MOU is essentially on hold because so much of the MOU is tied to timing, and timing is the biggest unknown at this point. So both the DDA, Seven Oaks, Worthing, the city, we're all having conversations on how we put this puzzle together to continue to push the ball forward, so that when we can move forward, we will move forward, if that makes sense. Are there any questions? I'm sure there are plenty, but.
Well, I have a couple of questions. the ways that we can help this along is not the council, but the DDA is this a way that we can help them along? Give them a better tax break or lower the price? Are those our two options?
No, and that kind of adds to the DeKalb County Commissioner, whatever you want to call it. There's political stuff going on here that we need to be conscious of. But that's not necessarily the first problem or obstacle that we need to get over.
It's the bank.
You bring up a good point. How do we change the economics so that this does move forward? It's not necessarily an adjustment to the purchase price. It's probably, well, first the city needs to take a look at the debt capacity, understand what it is that we are capable of doing, in addition with all of the other stuff that the city has going on. And how can we move this forward if we're not going to receive a payment for the site up front? And what I mean by that, we'll probably have to get Dan's opinion on this, but how do we essentially stay in the deal, not bring cash home, but instead turn that equity into financing of the parking deck and the site improvements and all the different kind of parts and pieces that need to come first with this development, knowing that the retail and the office are going to come second and third down the road.
Yeah.
So long-winded answer that wasn't really an answer, but we're looking at all those different angles of how do we position this so that we can keep pushing it forward, knowing that it may not mean cash coming back to the city immediately.
Yeah.
Rob, this is Dan. This is an open session, so I don't want to provide a lot of speculation, but maybe you and I could have a offline conversation one day and kick around some ideas and come back to the board. This is not something we can talk about in an executive session unless it's tied to the acquisition or disposition of real estate. And maybe it is, but some might be and some might not be.
Yes. Some might be and some might not be. That's a good way to put it.
Well, we have gotten a good statement from Nancy Jester that she doesn't support Jeff Raiders.
Yeah. So a little more color onto what's going on with DeKalb. We had a conversation with some folks at DeKalb. I think that has eased some of the indigestion that the developers have in terms of what they can and cannot do, or what the DeKalb County Commissioners will do. So from that standpoint, I think people are getting more and more comfortable with what's going on. And we're also we're looking to do what's in the best interest of the community, the city. We're not here just handing out tax abatement. So, it's long story short, we've had some conversations. I think those conversations are still ongoing. But it's brought some ease to a lot of folks that I think were a little uneasy on some public statements that have been made.
Well, that's good.
I've got a couple other questions, or I guess questions on the projects. Do you know if the engineering for those projects is and final architecture is moving forward, or is that on hold?
Which project specifically?
Either one associated with the town center.
Oh, I think they're still moving forward. I don't know what stages they're in. No one's taken their foot off the gas, so to speak. It's just now we're kind of hitting the point of where we're going to have to, put together a purchase and sale agreement, and how do we essentially capitalize this thing? So as far as I know, I mean, both groups went through their zoning approvals and are complete. And now it's kind of taking a look at how we move this thing forward from a financing standpoint.
Okay.
And look,
I just,
the message that has been given to our partners is that, yeah, retail is going to be complicated and office is going to be complicated, but we are looking to get a 50 to 100 year project that we're all going to be proud of. I don't think anyone's looking to cut corners on what it is or what we're doing here. So given that it's going to be complicated, we all need to figure out how we're going to get to that goal.
okay.
That's
fine. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't on hold as well, given the length of time it can take to prepare the engineering drawings and get approvals.
Not that I know of, but I think we've got Randy and Bob on the line if they want to give a quick blurb as to where they are with the design.
Do you want me to unmute them? Because I don't think they have.
That would be great.
Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay. It looks like Randy. It looks like they should be able to unmute themselves. Randy, can you try to unmute yourself? See if that works. Doesn't look like it's. Oh.
That work? Hello?
Yes,
Yep,
that works.
we hear you.
Yeah.
And feel free to correct anything that I might have said.
Well, again, I don't know if we wanted to get into this more in executive. Your call. We can talk about things now or an executive session, however we want to do it.
I think just high level where you guys are at with everything else that's not complicated.
Well, I mean, it is all kind of tied together as we, as you said correctly, we did get our zoning, which is great. It was broken into 2 phases. Office was late spring, and then multifamily and retail was just in June. So that is good. And with that, obviously, we've had architecture completed, everything needed for the DCI. I will say, and I agree with everything that you said, Rob. And again, I think Bob and Darren are on the call too, so they can chime in. I think last week's call with Nancy was productive. I do think we're looking, and she was going to go back and get more feedback and color on that. And before we continue to spend more meaningful dollars, we are looking to, and I know we committed to do this relatively quickly, the we being the collective we, us and the city and the DDA, research ways in which this project can be sequenced. And so I know everybody is totally focused on that. So I don't want to give the impression to everybody that, we're absolutely have a full team of architects continuing to plow forward. They are ready to go, and they're sitting on go. And they've already done a lot of the main heavy lifting to get the zoning approval. But we're hopeful to get some more color from Nancy Jester. She owes us feedback on what, according to our research, was indeed approved back in May. And then to your point, trying to get very creative on the sequencing of this. My understanding is John Walker was having a meeting this week with the financial consultant engaged by the city to quickly vet some of the ideas that we proposed in the last week or two. So
that's a great update, and I think kind of the next step that we are looking to jump is the next hurdle is the conversation that John has and what our capacity is moving forward. Yep. And so much of that is, and we'll get into this in the executive session, just tied to, how are we going to keep moving forward with our business plan with each individual property. So.
Yep.
Any questions? Again, we'll get into some more of the details of the transactions in the executive session. Moving on, old business, the COVID grants. So I'll just discuss briefly where I think we are with this and then turn it over to Catherine. I think we all like the idea of doing something to basically expand outdoor seating capacity, making outdoor eating and dining or just general lounging more comfortable for folks. Coming up with some sort of creative way to offer a grant that will basically help people in this COVID world, get more folks to their businesses and properly space them out and keep them outdoors and all that kind of stuff. Catherine, do you want to jump in there? And
actually, I'm going to turn it over to Dan because I had asked him to look into more details. So how do you like that for passing the buck? But Dan was going to look into more detail about what we could do, what would make sense for us, given our size and given the amount of the grants.
So let me report on that. Catherine and I have been working on it, and to be sure that we're all talking about the same thing, the parameters we've been discussing relate to a grant for the purpose of patio additions. The grant size might be a max of $5,000. We think that it's not, the standard Georgia grant structure has the public sector taking title or at least putting property in a public easement. So we think because of the size of this, that's probably not feasible. Other constraints are that what we spend our money on has to be to revitalize and redevelop downtown. We're not the Department of Community Health, we're the Downtown Development Authority, but I think there's a way to make it work. So let me tell you what my thinking is about how to go about that. Well, let me just first ask, is that the direction the board wants to go in? Are we talking about the right thing?
that's my understanding. Anybody else?
I think so.
That sounds right, but I'm concerned about the whole program, and I'll save my comments until after Dan explains because it may change.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So sort of in this order, if we're going to do this, I think we start with an application which is sturdier than our facade grant application. And that form would be approved by the board with findings of public benefit, which has some probative value. The grant applicant would agree to install additions we're calling it a patio, but patio additions. So question number one, do we want design approval? Do we want certain types of additions to be eligible and others not to be? You don't have to answer right now, but we need to be thinking about that. So in exchange for our grant, then the applicant would agree to install whatever addition it is that is the subject of the grant, to maintain it, to agree to use his or her best efforts to keep the business open so that the public can enjoy those additions, and to serve the public for some period of time, blank period of time. It doesn't really matter how much, but there needs to be something there. So if we can work that out to everybody's satisfaction, then the next question that comes up is how we make the award. If we have $30,000 in grant funds, there needs to be a rationale to how we do this. I don't recommend first come, first serve, because that means that you're not taking into account the amount of public benefit coming from the commitments and the different types of improvements that folks might want to make. You might also want to have some screening mechanism. Somebody comes in who's, was planning to close tomorrow, but now they've got a grant for $5,000. You might want to stop and think. But segueing into how stuff like this is normally done, you normally have evaluation factors, which is what is the public benefit you're agreeing to provide. Are you financially sound, at least for the next period of time? It can be really anything that the board wants, and it doesn't have to be very elaborate as long as it relates to revitalization and redevelopment. And then you could assign points to that, and that would give you, high scores and low scores to choose from up to the point where you run out of money. So that's where I am. I think we can do it. I think the documentation does not have to be burdensome, but I do think there has to be some, and I need some more direction from the board before I can put pen to paper on it.
I'm just questioning whether this is really the path we want to take at all. I mean, I'm all for wanting our businesses to survive through this tragic situation we're in, but I just don't know that us giving out $30,000 is really going to turn anything around. And then you've got the issue of really you're only talking about the restaurants. You're not talking about any other business. And I just think that maybe that 30,000 is better served, for our other endeavors that we're doing rather than, this COVID grant program. I'm not sure I'm on board with doing this at all.
I don't want to put Andy on the spot, but I'd love to, as a business owner, I'd love to hear his perspective if he thinks that this is, something tangible that would actually provide a lot of benefit.
No, I mean, I totally see Van's point there. I'm the concern that how much impact, that's a $30,000 have, especially given what Dan said, we don't want to do this on a first come first serve basis. Then how do we spread it? Or, for as many businesses as we can, like in the downtown area. So not limiting to restaurants only. That's my concern.
I agree with you, Andy, and I think that we can maybe combine what we had been allowing it for, as well as offering it to. I think a $5,000 grant would go a long way to help some of our restaurants, because those are the ones that are struggling more than anybody as far as trying to develop still continue to have an outdoor or dining ambiance, which is what people seem to want. But I think that I don't think we have to just limit it to restaurants, and I think that we should look at, we haven't been giving it out. So why have we not been giving it out? Nobody's been applying.
How do we help our local businesses with, proper spacing and giving their employees more room to roam without feeling cooped up in a, break room or, some sort of common area? How do we get folks to feel comfortable going to restaurants, wanting to spend dollars downtown? I think that's the goal, and I do think that this helps, but I will turn it back on our local business owners, and if the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak, or is it not?
I share many of Dan's concerns about this. One of the different views or the other concern that I have is timing. I mean, if we're still talking about this, if it takes another month or two to figure out what the program looks like, then we've got to advertise it and let the community know. Then we've got to give them time to prepare applications and review applications. Honestly, if we award the first dollar within 5 months, I'd be shocked. Which puts us at December, when outdoor dining isn't really the best option anymore. So I guess it feels like
I think we could speed that up. But it seems to me like, so we have a school that has a new school that is dying to open. I'm going to take that word back, not dying. And I don't know where they stand. $5,000 would probably go a long way to helping them provide PPE and cubicles, et cetera, et cetera. I think that money could be used different ways by different businesses.
I'm not sure that's what our objective is. Yeah, our mission is not to provide PPE. I mean,
no.
And to answer your question or your comment before, Leslie, about why is this money hasn't been used? Well, we have done a very poor job in the past years of going to the facades that we want improved and saying, hey, we've got this money. It's a matter of we just haven't marketed that grant program in the past. So I'm kind of in agreement with Brian. I think it's going to take some time, and I'm not sure that it's really going to give us that much benefit. But I mean, if y'all want to move forward with it, I mean, I won't put up any fight over it.
Well, what would stand in the way of awarding it? What if a restaurant does come and say, I need $5,000 to put up some umbrellas because it's too damn hot out here for my clients to eat outside? If they applied for it and we found it a reasonable ask, what's standing in the way of doing it now?
Oh, I think Dan is right. We need to have some criteria. And we need to have people step up and talk about what they're going to do and how it's going to help. We can't just, start writing checks.
I agree. I agree with that.
And it's going to take time to develop that criteria.
Oh,
okay. I guess, do we want to continue down this path and do some discovery on that and hopefully have something next month? Or do you guys just think the time has passed and let's just keep it in the Main Street beautification facade grant?
I mean, yeah, I think it was facade grant money. Our mission statement or our marching orders was to try to improve the downtown and the facades of the older buildings. We just haven't done a good job of going actively and saying, hey, we've got this $30,000 and picking the facades we want to improve and convincing the business owners that, hey, we'll put up some money if you put up some money to make your facade look better. I would rather use the $30 for that.
And it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. I mean, if you're
you're exactly right.
And improving your building, I mean, you're helping no matter what. So what do you think? Does this die on the vine? Do we want a motion to continue to push it forward? What do you guys want to do? Focus more efforts
on
to
move it forward.
I'd like to push it forward, even though it probably is going to be next spring before, we can really do anything, because Brian's right. We're talking about December or January. And so, but you get ready then and people can start making their plans.
Sure. It sounded like we had a motion from Leslie.
Yes, motion to move this to the next step, whatever that may be.
Second.
Let's do roll call. Is Robert Pond on?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Leslie?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Dan?
I'm going to say nay, but it's not because I don't want to help.
Brian?
I will say nay as well.
Anyone else I'm forgetting?
What's your vote, Rob?
I vote aye. Okay.
5-2.
Motion carries.
Push that forward. Thanks, guys. Whatever it is, obviously our intent is to help, so we're figuring that out. Whole Foods assessment. So we have Matt, and it looks like Tricia on the line from Seraphim, and we've had discussions about the valuation, the process. I just want to give a quick high level of where we are with the Whole Foods assessment, and then open it up for questions. Catherine, if we could, can we unmute Matt and Tricia just in case they have questions that come to them?
Yes, I think I have them unmuted now, so I think we're good.
Perfect. And I'll just go into this high level. We've been kicking around this valuation process, and we need to bring this to a head. We need to give Seraphim and their tenants some resolution. What they have submitted and what has been sent around to you guys is based on the analysis that we asked them to perform, to basically say, okay, guys, what is the fair market value for your property? And not only that, but secondary, how does that impact the taxes that are passed through, or the supposed taxes that would be charged in lieu of actual real estate taxes? And how does that impact your tenants relative to market comps? And what was sent around has a $50,000 or $50 million valuation plugged in. That's more than what the initial property or project cost was, but it's lower than what the CAB put on the books, which reflected the sale of the property. Now, looking into their numbers, the report that they put together, this is still showing a premium value over comparable properties, both on a per square foot basis, and then and also on a pass-through, quote unquote, real estate triple net cost to the tenant. So it's not like they are below market when it comes to the valuation and the implied triple net pass-through for the real estate taxes. And they did what we had asked. It makes sense to me. I guess I would open it up to the folks on the board. If you guys have questions or comments or thoughts on what was sent around, that basically goes through the evaluation process. So what I would like to do here is, we need to solidify I believe it's the 2018 and the 2019 valuation. They put those numbers together. They put that in their year-end report. I might need to ask Dan, but this to me looks like it's kind of ready to rubber stamp. From a DDA standpoint, are we in a position where we can do that?
I appreciate what you said, Rob, and I think that you made some good points there. It's not that the proposed valuation is below cost, and it's not that it does not contain a premium, because it passes both of those tests. It's at variance with what the assessors have determined the fair market value to be, but we've talked about the significance of that, and if the board's satisfied with it, then I am. If the board chooses to accept that $50 million fair market value, then I would need to go back and look at the annual reports and look at the reports having to do with the credit basket. We've satisfied ourselves on the excess cost and environmental. So it's not a question of due diligence. It's a question of looking at the numbers and verifying those. So I think that if it is the board's pleasure to accept that valuation tonight, I can then turn and finish this up, and I think we all heave a huge sigh of relief with that. Be aware you're setting a precedent that if we do this, then probably as part of this, at least with this company, that we ought to memorialize that this is the way we're going to do it. And if this is how we're going to do it, then it probably ought to find its way into our next MOUs where we have a credit basket provision. So I lay that on the table, and we don't have to worry about hypothetical deals right now. But I think as part of this, that if we accept the 50 million, then we ought to accept the methodology and immortalize that as part of our deal with this company.
Now, I have one question, if that's okay. Rob, can I ask one question?
Sure.
I am okay with the 50 million. My question is really for Dan. By doing this, are we saying that we're locking in 50 million for the rest of the term of the abatement, or will the valuation possibly change down or up in the future before the end of the credit basket of abatement?
It's the latter, Van. What I have in mind doing is that each year they would come to us with what they have provided this time, which is a study of comparables, and demonstrate a reasonable premium, and that's what they're proposing is above cost. And then it would still be up to the board to approve. I mean, we could say, no, we don't agree with that, or yes, we do. But this means that we don't look at what the assessors are doing. This means that we don't necessarily hire an appraiser unless we feel like we can't second guess the numbers. But each year we would go through essentially this same process. We have a filing substantiated by the data. The board would review the data, and we've done that more than once in this deal. But the difference is, instead of debating what is it that we need in order to make a decision, we're deciding, if we go this route, that this is the data that we need, you provide that data, and we'll make a decision. But that data may say value up, value down, and our decision on that data may agree or disagree. But we won't be wondering what we need in order to make a decision. We will have locked that down, but we will not have locked down the value.
Okay, that's all I really wanted to know. I wanted to make sure that if our society and our economy goes into a tailspin and property values start dropping, that one, the owner is not locking themselves into a 50 million when it might only be worth 40 million, and two, we're not saying, hey, we're just accepting 50 million for the rest of the term when we know the property values are going to continue to go up in our area.
That's right. And I've got a statement and a question for Dan. You know, I believe this is the intent of the structure of the deal, is that, you know, they're both the beneficiary and, you know, not the beneficiary to increasing values. So if the value goes up, then the tax goes up. If the value goes down, the tax value goes down. And in a way, this is tying to the DeKalb appraised values, because they're bringing us DeKalb tax values based on comparable properties. So, you know, while DeKalb might not be reassessing this property, they are reassessing the other properties, which they are basically putting in the analysis. My question is, Dan, we are not locking ourselves into these specific properties, correct? It's just the methodology and how we're doing this. Every year there will be either increase or decrease in values of these specific properties, or maybe new properties that make more sense, certainly at the discretion of the developer.
I agree with that, and that is a good clarification of what I was saying, because I was talking about looking at numbers, and you're saying which numbers, and yes, we could get, suppose another Whole Foods came to town. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And it would be remarkable if that other Whole Foods numbers were not on the data that was filed with us. So we might say, no, we won't accept this until you go get the data from the other Whole Foods. So yes, I think we can, I don't know that we have like striking a jury, you just knock out all the numbers you don't like. But I do think that we have some reasonable basis on which to either say that's a good comparable or that's not a good comparable, and end up with a list that we felt like was a good comparable. And if not, then we wouldn't approve it. So yeah, I think we retain the right to have some discretion over what comparables are presented to us.
Excellent. Matt, is there anything that we missed there, or anything that you guys have comments on?
No, Rob, thank you. I think that sums it up perfectly, and it would be our full expectation that we would, it would be requested of us that we come in every year and put together this analysis and then put it in front of if properties contained in the analysis feel appropriate, and then you can ultimately decide on the value. So, go up or down. And then I guess the only thing that I wasn't 100% sure on is I believe that we're asking for you all to approve 18 as well as 19 values. I'll refer to you guys as far as I think that is in. I'm not 100% sure based on your process.
I missed a little bit of that. That might have been my cell reception. Dan, did you hear that?
Too. No, I missed it too.
I missed a lot of it. I couldn't tell what was said.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay. All I was saying was I agree with everything that was said about the process, and that it can be the value can go up or down every year. And, it's on us to submit the analysis to you every year, and then you can determine if it's complete and remains relevant from year to year. So I agree with all that. And then my other question was, I was just asking you all, tonight, are we approving the value for 18 and 19? That's just a question to you guys from a process standpoint. I believe that's where we are.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we're voting on it.
Okay, great.
And board members,
I'd like to.
Excuse me for interrupting. It's fine to go ahead and vote on those numbers, but in order to capture everything that we've talked about tonight, at the next meeting, I'd like to have an MOU amendment ready. We'll prepare it and run it by everybody to make sure it's okay. But that's how we will memorialize this, and it'll be our roadmap going forward. But we don't have to have that for y'all to approve the $50 million for 2018 and 2019 tonight, if that's what you would like to do.
Yeah, I'd like to.
So Dan,
Go ahead.
I have a question though about that, because I like that you're going to put an amendment to the MOU to memorialize that. And you may not know this off the top of your head, does the MOU state, the original MOU state, when during the year they're supposed to come to us? Because I know this has dragged on for a long time, and I'd like to make sure that in the future it doesn't drag on. Is there a date they're supposed to be doing this each year? And if so, when do they have to do it for 2020?
There is a date. We're way past it. Let me check and see. I may be able to answer that real quick.
Not
the
for
date
20.
for 2020 would be, it's around November.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked
talking about 2018 and 2019.
Correct.
And so I think that sounds great to approve 18 and 19 today, and then be able to, for sure before we're to have the memorialization of how it's going to work in the future will for sure be done before the 2020 valuation is due.
Yeah. I'm thinking tonight we go ahead and say we agree on the 50 million. Dan can put together the MOU, bring it back to us for formal approval in August, and that would give you September and October to prepare yourself for a November valuation for 2020.
Does anybody have an issue with voting on 2018, 2019, and 2020 tonight?
I would like to wait on 2020.
We're not going to vote on 20 tonight. We don't have it.
Yeah, only because there's no analysis for 20.
We just did an analysis, and we're right in the middle of what would be the time for tax assessment and appeal. So it seems like a good time to go ahead and confirm for 20 as well. I'm not sure why we'd wait till the end of the year to do it.
I would say we would wait if Dan says the original MOU says they're supposed to come to us in November. I don't think we should deviate from a timeline that was originally set in place.
Van, I'm not finding the date real quick. I do have the document open, but I'm having trouble finding it. But I wouldn't recommend doing 2020 tonight. I mean, we're prepared for 2018 and 2019. I don't think we're prepared for 2020 tonight.
Do we have a motion to approve the 2018 and 2019 valuation?
Motion to accept $50 million valuation for 2018, 2019, and to have Dan draft a amendment to the MOU to approve it next meeting.
Second.
Who seconded it? Van?
Leslie?
You can give it to Leslie. Leslie.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Matt, Tricia, thank you guys very much. I know that was a long process. We certainly appreciate everything you guys put together for us, and we will continue to move this forward.
Okay, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Appreciate all your work for Chamblee. Thanks.
We appreciate the tacos over at Taqueria del Sol. Okay, new business, digital file storage.
Yeah, Van had asked to put this. Yeah, I can take it, Van.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. I know we had talked about partnering with the city in the past, and then we just never followed up. I emailed Emmy, the city clerk. She said the DDA can join onto the city's Laserfish account. All it takes is we'll have to do some type of intergovernmental agreement between the two bodies. So that's kind of the next step. I was going to have her look for kind of a boilerplate that's already out there if she had one. If not, I'll be pinging you, Dan, about it. But
Okay.
if you all are comfortable with using Laserfish, unless there's something else y'all want me to look into.
Well, I know. I mean, can I give a little history since we have some new members that haven't been around?
Yeah, go for it.
So when we started the DDA, we didn't have any money, obviously, and we didn't have an executive director, and we were creating agendas and taking minutes. And so at the time, I was the chairman, David was the vice chairman. We talked about having just a digital filing storage system, and we chose Dropbox. And David had access, I had access, and then when Adam came along, Adam had access, and we were just dumping everything in there. It's gotten overwhelming, and there's stuff that I think is not in there. It came up with this Whole Foods. I couldn't find the original spreadsheet that was created for the abatement, and I have a feeling there's a bunch of files that Adam had that were not in the Dropbox. So my question on the Laserfish, this is something that would be accessible online to us as members?
Yes, I'll have to check with Emmy how many licenses we can get, so how many folks can have access to it. So I think it's just a matter of the cost on that end, but there is a way to like control who has access to it and who doesn't.
Well, even if we had just one login for the DDA, there have been many times at meetings where someone has asked a question and I've pulled up a document from the past to try to answer that question. So I think that's really the most important part, is being able to have access to it during the meetings if we needed to find an old file.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea.
That and the ability to track our tax abatement burn off. I mean, I know we are, but just to have a central repository where we can go and look and see, you know, we just approved the Whole Foods for 2018 and 2019. What's that impact, and what does the you know, next however many years look like on that burn off?
Mm-hmm.
We need to be tracking that kind of stuff.
So it sounds like, Catherine, you still need to do some data gathering between Emmy and Dan. So maybe we should just push this to next month, and you can come back with exactly how it would all work and if there's any cost to us as the DDA.
Yep. I'll put it under old business next month and keep it on there as we're working through this.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Next is public comment.
We don't, unless there's someone in the public, I think they're all unmuted. We don't have any public comment at this time.
And so do we have a motion to enter executive session pursuant to OCGA 50-14-3B1 for the purpose of discussing or approving a real estate transaction?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I'm gonna pause this recording and give me a couple minutes to start the go-to meeting for executive session. I'll see you all over there.
Thanks.
We have to switch over?
Yeah.
Switch over. Yeah, there's a separate link for it's a go-to meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Talk to y'all later.